And he's back. What's going on? Hit the subscribe button. We're trying to make it to 1K subscribers. We're trying to do big things with this channel, and I'm going to need your help to do that. So once again, we're going to do a shout out to All Asian Dilemmas because they're always delivering us the heat straight from China. And I appreciate this. I just love their videos so much. That's why I'm always reviewing them. It's not like I can't do my own videos, but I like to give recaps on what I think deserves to be recapped. So this is a shorter video, only about 6 minutes. Let's check it out. What's going on with the leftover situation in China, owning multiple homes, cars with savings in the bank, and checking off all the boxes. Let's go.
A French TV station once aired a documentary about China's leftover women, which unexpectedly sparked intense discussions among French netizens. Some couldn't even last 3 minutes before they couldn't help but express their frustration.
Wow.
What's even more frightening is that this is a dilemma that all single women in China are currently facing or will inevitably face in the future. Su Min, 28, from Beijing, an only child, graduated from Communication University of China, and is now a broadcast host. She comes from a wealthy family with a good income. Logically, she should have no shortage of admirers, but unexpectedly, she's still struggling to find someone to marry. At an offline matchmaking event, she met a returning overseas PhD. The two hit it off immediately upon their first meeting, and privately, they had a good impression of each other. Su Min was very fond of him, so she went home and told her parents all about her matchmaking experience. Because she liked him, she deliberately hid his shortcomings and only told her parents that he was a civil servant.
Wow.
After hearing about him, her mother was very pleased and encouraged her to spend more time with him. If you wait too long and get married later, we'll be old and won't be able to take care of ourselves, let alone help you.
And you know, it's pretty rare for parents to encourage their children to keep dating the person that they're seeing. Because a lot of times, people bring home to dinner somebody that they're not fond of. Like a lot of times when women bring home a guy to a family dinner, a lot of times the woman will pretty much cover up any kind of fuck shit that's going on the low, because she knows it's enough for her parents to say, no, get rid of them.
This led to Su Min feeling even more positive about the situation, and the two continued to grow closer. However, the man's lack of a Beijing hukou, household registration, was met with opposition from her mother, and ultimately, the relationship didn't result in marriage. Su Min was heartbroken and had no choice but to continue searching for the next suitable candidate in the marriage.
Damn, so his job title alone and his success couldn't even keep the relationship going. So basically, your job title doesn't mean anything, because what you do for a living and how you are as an actual human being is two different things. How do you treat people, and do you have any brains? That's the most important thing. But people are too much always criticizing people by what they do for a living, for a job.
Marriage market. In China, marriage is not just a matter for two individuals, but also for two families, with much influence from Chinese family ethics and values. Su Min's criteria for a partner aren't low. She requires the man to be of good character, well-educated, and from a family with a similar or better financial background, especially rejecting men from rural areas. Su Min's mother believes that people from rural backgrounds come with too many relatives, and that marrying them would only bring additional complications.
I know what that meant right off the bat. What she's trying to say is people like that grow up in villages, they have a large household, too many cousins, siblings. It's just too many people in one household, and they're used to living in crowded households, versus somebody that lives out in the city. They only have one or two siblings, and it's just their mother and father. They don't have cousins and aunts and shit living with them. That's what she's trying to say.
But men who meet these conditions also have their own set of criteria for a partner. In the matchmaking market, there is a well-established rule that men prefer younger women, while women prefer financial stability.
So to those of you that find it weird that your 70-year-old uncle is dating a 28-year-old woman, it's because your uncle has the money and the 28-year-old girl doesn't care, because financially she's covered until they separate. Sugar daddy. So most women don't mind, most young women don't mind being sugar babies to an older guy because the older guy is financially secure. And if the relationship lasts long enough, he'll probably pass his money on to her instead of his children that don't give a damn about him. Because that's what's wrong with a lot of these guys. That's why you see a lot of these older guys with younger women half their age, because their own children despise them. These older guys that have adult children, their children can't stand them. So that's another reason why they could get away with being with these younger women. Even though these women are like fucking their daughter's age. I mean, some people find it weird. Some people say they should have women their own age, but then look at the women their own age.
Because of this, many of the leftover women are actually very successful, whereas the men who are still single tend to be the opposite.
And I've noticed that. A lot of these Chinese women that are in their mid-30s and 40s and up, they're not struggling. I mean, they might be paying all their bills on their own, but then they have their families support too as well. Like they have their parents, if they're still alive, like they have assets passed down in the family. So financially, they're well off. They might not need a man financially, but to boost their lifestyle, they might have to get a man. Meaning like if they want to go out on luxury yachts, expensive restaurants, vacations and everything, then they're probably going to need a husband that makes equal money or more to them. So keep that in mind.
Su Min has always been a good girl who listens to her mother.
Oh boy.
And even her standards for choosing a partner were set by her mother. This has gradually led Su Min into a state of depression, to the point where she needed psychological counseling.
That's a red flag right there. Avoid any woman that's been in any kind of psychological counseling, been put on medication and all that. That's a big red flag. At least over here in America it is. We heavily advise guys to stay away from women that's been suffering from PTSD and all that shit. Like, it's just not a good outlook for you, because as a man, you're going to get blamed for whatever she's going through, even though she was going through it before y'all even met. She's going to pass that down on you and make it your fault. And she's going to make your life a living hell. But some of you guys look over it because she's the best looking woman that you could get, the youngest woman you could get at the time. Like a lot of guys that don't have options, they settle for headaches.
Her mother's disapproval weighed heavily on her, 80% to 90% of the time. After some psychological counseling, Su Min decided to talk to her mother. "You need to stop interfering so much." But her mother only replied with a cold laugh. Su Min continued to accuse her mother of controlling her life. She became increasingly emotional, even asking, "Why did my dad marry you? Why did he even choose you?" The conversation escalated as Su Min expressed her frustrations, crying uncontrollably. Ultimately,
I mean, she ain't bad looking. I mean, it's just that when you come from well-off families, understand that a lot of times the parents try to control their children with money. When they find out that they're dating somebody that they don't want their children to be around, oh, you're with him, I'm gonna stop helping you out on the rent, all this kind of shit. Like, it's a control mechanism. Understand that money is a tool, and people sometimes use that tool to control other people. So a lot of times, these women that come from well-off families, a lot of times they grew up in a shitty household, even though they had the support financially, but mentally they're fucked up. Yeah.
the negotiation between mother and daughter failed, and Su Min was still like a puppet, letting her mother dictate and control her life. Her heart continued to break with each failed relationship. There is a saying that women between the ages of 25 and 30 are like sandwich cookies, caught in a dilemma where they can't see a clear path forward or backward. This invisible anxiety looms over almost every older single woman. Whether they choose to stay single or get married, there is always something to sacrifice.
And between that age, 25 or 30, I'm glad they brought that up because understand something. Between 25 and 30, they've met their perfect match already. They met the person they were supposed to settle down with. And after 30, it's going to get harder and harder to find their perfect match again.
Older single women often feel lost. But does marriage represent a perfect solution?
No.
Gai Chi is the only woman in the documentary who is married. She has a PhD, a Beijing hookup, and her husband is from a rural background with little formal education.
Wow, you hear that? Hey, sometimes them opposites work. The opposites attract like magnets. He's from the rural countryside with little education. Versus her, she was in the city and got an education. So it's like two birds together flock together, right? But at the same time, it's like a doctor marrying another doctor. That's usually what happens. People in the healthcare field, if they're doctors, physicians, a lot of times they end up marrying other doctors, if not another professional, a lawyer, somebody in law. It's like a nurse marrying somebody in law enforcement, stuff like that. That's usually how those career chains go. Somebody that makes just as much, but a different career.
At one point, Gai Chi also had high standards for a partner, wanting a city hookup, a car, a house, and a graduate degree. But as she aged and faced pressure from her family and relatives, she had to lower her standards. Fortunately, her match, although from a rural background, was an ambitious young man. Though younger than her, he was attentive and caring, and over time, Gai Chi's heart settled, and she found clarity. In just a year and a half, she completed the 3 big life events: matchmaking, marriage, and having a child. She chose the path that most people would choose, ordinary and conventional. On her wedding day, her mother seemed even more excited than she was. "I think you're more excited than me," Gai Chi said. "You always have to give something up when you get married, but it's just a tradition." Her husband arrived with flowers and sang a love song to welcome her, and Gai Chi finally smiled. When her husband recited the wedding vows, she realized she was more moved than she had imagined. "I studied literature, but today I don't want to use any fancy words. I just want to live the most ordinary, mundane happiness with you." After marriage, Gai Chi resigned from her position as a professor at Beijing Normal University to join her husband in Guangzhou to pursue further career development. Though the marriage was somewhat forced, Gai Chi understood that marriage requires compromise. Family stability doesn't always depend on age, and life should be carefully nurtured, so she didn't give up on self-improvement. After giving birth to a daughter, her in-laws helped take care of the child while she continued working and giving lectures. While her marriage might not be ideal, there was a certain grounded feeling. However, unmarried students in her classes started questioning her statements, asking why she always implied that marriage is the only path to happiness.
What?
"I never said marriage is the ultimate success," Gai Chi explained. "I just think that right now I'm happy. Before I got married, my life was very interesting, full of variety. But after marriage, it's not as exciting. It's boring at times, but it's also more fulfilling. Marriage requires giving up some things, but it also brings other rewards. Marriage isn't a fairy tale ending, but the beginning of a new life."
Ladies and gentlemen, you heard that. When it comes to settling, the word that everybody's scared of. He said settling, yeah. Once you end up getting married, and you're going to have to sacrifice something. Like, you can't just stay in your selfish ways. It's like you're going to have to give up going out to the club every weekend or hanging out with your boys every day after work. Something like you have responsibilities, let alone when children come in. You're going to be at home most of the time after work. You ain't going to be hanging out like that. You're lucky if you even get to jump on the PlayStation 5 to play Call of Duty. But whatever, to each his own. I'll catch you on the next video. This is Kyler Vale. Holla!